Inner desire of humans to explore more is why people went to space. Went and sent first the spacecraft and then later on found ways to travel themselves. This will continue as you grow. You will see human beings reaching farther and farther.
The space race was a competition between the United States and the Soviet Union to see which country could achieve the most significant accomplishments in space exploration. The space race lasted from the late 1950s to the mid-1970s and was a defining moment in the history of human space exploration. During 1956, scientist Wernher von Braun was working on the rocket Jupiter-C, which was planned to take the first US satellite, the Explorer 1. But the Soviets beat them to it by launching Sputnik in October 4, 1957, which was the first man-made satellite into orbit.
Opened. The springs snapped, and the nose cone was pushed out of the way. A ball with 4 antennae emerged to go it alone in the darkness of space. And a radio began to send a signal back to Earth. Humanity had entered the space age.
In response to that, President Eisenhower created NASA by passing the National Aeronautics and Space Act in 1958. And all space-related projects were transferred to NASA. Meanwhile, the success of the Jupiter-C test resulted in the launch of the United States' very own satellite, the Explorer 1, which was finally launched in January 1958. In 1961, Soviet astronaut Yuri Gagarin became the first person to orbit the Earth on the spacecraft Vostok 1. A few weeks later, the USA responded with its own spaceflight, the Mercury Redstone 3, when Alan Shepard became the first American to travel in space. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy gave his "We choose to go to the moon" speech to Congress. And in that speech, he set a deadline to reach the moon and back by the end of that decade.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
In 1969, U.S. astronaut Neil Armstrong put his foot on the moon in the successful Apollo 11 mission. With a successful moon landing, the space race was won by the USA, and famously quoted by Neil Armstrong,
"One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
With whom did you work with at NASA, and what challenges did you face while working on the Apollo missions?
I worked with two great people. In the first picture, you see Dr. Von Braun holding the binoculars around his neck. That was on the day that Apollo 11 landed on moon. And next to him on the back, you will see Mr. Chuck Matthews. During Apollo 13, we had a most significant incidents. But fortunately, from Apollo 8 to 17, on which I worked, we had set up an infrastructure, namely a network of 60 observatories around the globe, who were able to observe the spacecraft whenever it was in light of the sun.
The spirit of Apollo transcends geographical barriers and political differences. It can bring the people of the world together in peace.
The space program also had some significant technological spin-offs, including the development of new materials, computers, and telecommunication systems, including the development of the International Space Station.
There was an unfortunate accident in the beginning of Apollo because the materials used were not protected for fire. So they were flammable materials. So we did a lot of research to find those materials that don't burn when exposed to oxygen or fire. And that is what we are using today in the drapes, in the kitchen, in the utensil coatings like Teflon and so on. Lot of new materials we are using is because of that space program.
The development of computer technology was critical to space exploration. The first digital computer, the IBM 7090, was used to calculate the trajectory for the Apollo missions. This led to the development of smaller and more powerful microprocessors that have since transformed our daily lives. The launch of the first satellite, Sputnik 1, opened up a new era of communication and navigation. Satellites have since become an essential part of modern life, used from everything from weather forecasting to global positioning systems, GPS, and satellite television. The space race also spurred advances in medical technology. The development of life support systems and space medicine research helped to pave the way for numerous medical breakthroughs.
The hospital patients are using, when you measure the blood pressure, you have a strip, similar strips they are using when they lay down on bed for a long time. And that's for ambulatory care, and they are using lower body negative pressure. They pull blood into their limbs from the heart so that circulation is better. But this was discovered for Skylab. We used to train the astronauts to do exercise using the same equipment, of which a much better advanced form you are using in hospitals today, and you will use that for long flights in the airlines tomorrow.
Including artificial hearts, ultrasound machines, and MRI techniques.
Ultrasound techniques have improved significantly, and new features such as color Doppler, 3D and 4D imaging have come up. Almost every organ of the body can be visualized with ultrasound. Presence of bone or air will interfere with the image acquisition by the ultrasound waves.
I have used MRI for some of my patients and it has huge benefits. So MRI provides better soft tissue contrast than CT and can differentiate better between fat, water, muscle and other soft tissues. So it's a huge benefit for study of brain and cancer prevention and detection due to lack of radiation. It can also be used for other parts of the body like heart, internal organs, bones and joints and breast.
Growing some medicines on space station, and that we are using on the Earth. And because of lack of gravity, that medicine has better effects on human beings on the ground. So we already have next generation medicines. And in the next generation of medicines, you will do genetic medicines, which will make defects go away.
Overall, the space race was a significant catalyst for the technological advancements, pushing the boundaries of what was possible in a wide range of fields.
What I see in future would be human spaceflight, which is what you are seeing in Artemis 2, 3 and 4. When humans will go back to moon and eventually go to Mars one day.
So aim big, reach for the moon. Even if you'll miss, you'll land among the stars.
Hippity hoppity, hippity hopping over hill and dale. Da 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 da. Hippity hopping along.